All right. So I'll share first my roses and my thorns. So I'll start with roses today. So for my rose, I'm happy this semester is over. I'm happy that I survived physical science. I think in 7 years of teaching, I've never had it this difficult with students. And it was very challenging, especially at the beginning of semester. So I do want to thank you guys for, especially you, Mr. Redfern and Mr. Baker, for really supporting me, especially in the beginning of the semester, because you know just how rough it was. And I kind of felt like I was beating my head against the wall there for a little bit, but I got it through, so I am happy about that. My scores are not terrible. I'm still analyzing them, and I actually put together a really big spreadsheet because I'm OCD like that, which I'll show you at the next PLC. Another celebration. Oh, my trip to Italy and Greece is almost here. So the kids are excited about that. And there's a few kids going to Costa Rica with Miss Watson. I gave her that trip to take over for me since I'm doing this project. So that's almost here. Always look forward to those vacation months. I'm looking forward to my STEM I'm looking forward to developing this model so that other departments in the school can learn how to PLC. And my thorn also happens to be my scores. I cried. I don't think that they're that great. But we'll look at those in the future, probably in the next PLC when we bring all our data. What about you guys? Who wants to share?
I said my rose was the science department. I feel like it's pretty cohesive. I like that. My thorn was a couple of kids, 80% proficient in my class. And I had kids of like 78, 79 on the ELC.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know, I spent a lot of time crunching numbers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, man, what did I miss? Or what did I... So then I said my STEM was something that I want to work on. And I think classroom management for me could be a little tighter.
Okay.
And it's because when I teach honors kids, I know I give them more slack. I know I do this, I'm prejudice. I am, and so like I'll let things slide, and there was this one girl in particular, like, I'm not gonna say her name, no. But her cell phone, she was so bright that she made a 79. Mm-hmm. I was like, God almighty, if I had just, you had
tightened up on the cell phone,
just a little bit. You never know. I mean, that could have been the thing. Yeah. So, yeah, that's something I'll work on definitely going forward.
Yeah. So I said my thorn was, of course, the oversized classes. This year, these are the biggest, even compared to last year in terms of the classes. And
what were your numbers roughly?
I know third block it was 26. Second, I think we were able to get down to about 20. My first block was my smallest class, and I want to say we had 17 or 18.
Okay.
That was the smallest. Luckily, the largest class was my honors class, so it wasn't really a lot of behavior issues. It was just so many of them, and that was another thing I wrote. We were unable to do certain activities because there's so many of them and it's only one of me. So we couldn't do certain labs and stuff like I did last year because it was just too many. I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head, but after listening to both your STEMs. But the roses I put, with the being a large class, it was so diverse in terms of students from different areas or just coming from different counties. And it offered a lot of insight into different things that they knew. So when we did, I wrote collaborative learning or our group activities.
Yeah, more teachable moments.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot more teachable moments and a lot more insight that my students got. So I did enjoy that part. Thank you.
My STEM would be critical thinking. That's one big thing I'm really going to push for next semester. Because I saw little bits of it this semester. Because I got, for my Bloom, I got a lot of deeper questions. My kids were really thinking about what was going on, but they weren't sure how to ask it.
Mm-hmm.
So either they wouldn't, or they'll ask someone else, or they'll just kind of blurt out what's on top of their head. So it also really helped with that kind of social learning from each other. Thorns, for some reason, my honors kids are really lazy, and they didn't want to do any of my like engaging activities. They didn't want to move around.
What about the vertical learning boards?
Half of them would sit down while trying to do that and have one person write. That was hard to push on them. Where my regular kids would do it, but they would take so long trying to figure out what to do and how to do it that a lot of times they got lost through all that. But they enjoyed it. So there's cleaning it up is a big thing for all my kids. And then figuring ways that I can make engaging activities for them that no matter what will push them to do more.
Do you think the hot question was engaging for them?
By the end of the semester, I kind of found a way to mix it in, but not really.
Yeah, me neither.
To me, like EQs, I can't talk questions, they don't really see that because they don't ask themselves those questions. And that's one big thing that I'm gonna try to push next semester is have my kids make their own questions, and then we kind of look back at it at the end of the day.
I like that idea.
I mean, I can use that to kind of look at the hot questions, like, okay, how did you answer your question? How does that relate to what
We used to
we're-
use that when kids had to make questions. Remember when we were Cornell Notes only? Do you remember that? You were
that was
Cornell
one year
for that?
before me, that one with Abbott.
Yeah, so when we did Cornell Notes only, the students had to create their own questions. And I really like that feature of Cornell. Awesome. Mr. Baker, you have any blooms, thorns, stems?
Yes, so I'll start with blooms. I will definitely piggyback off of Ms. Redfern and say science department, I feel very confident in. The department is very cohesive. We're intentional about what we're doing. We work together, we collaborate. We may not always agree, but I think everybody in this room is going to do what's in the best interest of the team and what's in the best interest of students, so I really appreciate that. Some thorns that we have are, class makeups, intentionally and purposefully scheduling students. Class sizes, I agree with you, but I've also been in contact with other schools and average class sizes are 32, 34. So I kind of appreciate being under 30. I know that it doesn't happen often. I would love for us to be at 20. I think this semester we're going to see classes a little bit more balanced based off of what I've been looking at the matrix. But some other thorns are underutilization of teachers and overutilization of teachers. I think we need to find that balance too. And everybody
I like that, Mr.
a part of this boat that we're trying to get on. Some stems, I would say we are really doing a much better job this year with learning and PLCs and PDs with teachers, trying to help teachers grow and starting that process. So I think that's something that we're growing in, and also actually utilizing data to help grow kids and teach students. So, and with lesson plans, we have, even down to scheduling, we've been using a lot more data to help support why we're putting kids where we're putting them, especially, as it relates to science department. So, overall, very pleased where we are.
So, the purpose for our PLC is, we have been meeting as a department, but we haven't analyzed data effectively. We've shared strategies. We've gone to the NSTA conference, we came back and we shared things from the conference, and we've observed each other's lessons through the lesson tuning protocol. And so now I think it's time to kick it into high gear and really analyze our data and maybe try to, instead of remediate kids this coming semester, maybe come up with a plan to have intervention instead. and just be a little bit more focused on increasing not only, student rates of success, but also obviously our scores. So, the purpose for our PLC for this semester, the outcomes I've determined for us is, one, to improve teaching and learning by involving all departments to learn from us. So like I said before, we're going to be the model for the rest of the departments at this school. And we're gonna do so by using appropriate tenets to PLC, which include Dufour's 4 critical questions. And this PLC will help to identify a specific need at this school. So as a result, by the end of February or so, we're gonna come together, and then you guys are gonna help me decide what is a critical need at this school that I can develop an action plan for, that I can present to the school board, that we can implement for the following year. Does that make sense? And I found this, and I love this. You guys know how I like to make waves. So if we have a change in leadership behavior at this school and within our PLC, then that will trickle down, and change in PLC and peer coaching will take place, which in turn will change teacher behaviors at this school, which you guys already know how we feel about that. And then change in student behavior will hopefully follow, which all of those things will increase student achievement, which should be everybody's goal at this school. Just a brief review of the tenets of a PLC. A PLC is not just a meeting. You are a proper PLC when you analyze data and try to put forth student achievement. So it's an ongoing process in which teachers and administration and other stakeholders work together, collecting data, using action research to achieve better results. And here are Dufour's 4 critical questions, which we're gonna use in our PLC every time we meet, is what do we expect our students to learn? So by the end of this sequence, what should they learn? That's using the standards, and we might, some of our standards, like for physical science, which both of us are getting ready to teach this semester, we might have to look through all of those standards, which is so overwhelming, and just hone in on a few key standards. We might have to do the same thing for earth science. I know biology is locked in that EOC, so we probably can't weave through all of that, but for sure with the NCFEs, we should be able to do that just fine. Assessments, how will we know each student has learned it? So we're gonna go from, oh yeah, most of them did okay. We're gonna go from that type of mentality to, well, this student did this and this student did that. Then is the intervention piece. How will we respond when some students do not learn it? And right now, I think all of us use a type of remediation model where if you're not getting it, what do? Come to tutoring, right? Well, I don't think that's really working. So I think we should move towards an intervention piece. And I know briefly yesterday we discussed at the meeting after school where we could pull kids potentially out of their elective classes to do a quick one-on-one 20 minutes or something like that. We can utilize TAs and implement some more strategies this semester. And then lastly, the last question is, how will we respond when some students already know it? What do we do with these kids? We all have kids in our classes that they are high achievers and they get it very quickly, and then they just kind of fall through the cracks because we're so focused on all the other kids. So what do we do with those kids? These are Dufour's 4 critical questions that lead a PLC. So what I would like for us to do, just a few seconds, is kind of talk, what could be a problem? What could be a potential roadblock to us accomplishing this semester? And then could we find a solution to that? So, number one thing I always hear people saying is, well, we don't have the time, right? So if you guys can just kind of brainstorm a little bit, what could be a problem to us accomplishing this, and then what would be a solution?
So we're locking the standards. So it's almost like it really is like there's a certain amount of stuff a kid is supposed to know. Period. Like before they, whatever, as it is before next to the course. So I was just like, for example, I would find it hard to have a data conversation about the majority of my, well, really all of my standards and the depth and breadth of them with someone who's never taught the course. I'm just being real, like, cause my stuff is like, look, if you ain't never looked at it, they know, like all of them really, to be real. So that's where I was just a little like, cause I know like in a traditional PLC, it is like, okay, we're teaching the exact same standards, so we'll have the exact same assessment, and then we will disaggregate that data.
Right.
So that's what I was curious about, like how, for the singletons, because now y'all are not that, y'all will be teaching that thing.
Right, and
So
so
what will be-
the working in isolation is, can prove to be a huge barrier.
Yeah, so I've joined the PLC.
Yeah.
Outside, that's, y'all know that, like I go to
Yeah.
Dudley and all that, for that very reason, because they have like,
So let me ask you, do the teachers at Dudley, are they open to doing CFAs with you?
so we don't do CFAs, but we'll analyze
Use your
the intro.
benchmark.
Mhm.
Okay.
We analyze the intro. And the reason is because they do a unit out of sequence for me, which is an option in North Carolina, in Guilford County. You
Okay.
can choose to do like ecology in the front instead of, whatever. So, that's the only thing I see is like, is how would we have those kind of conversations and how in depth would they be or how valuable would they be if you haven't really,
Mhm.
that's the only thing.
I'll write this down. And let's see my note keeper over there, my minute keeper over there.
Oh.
Challenge down. Okay.
And then I do see time, cause I'm like my PLC that I was involved in at Minnow Smith, when there was multiple people teaching the same thing, it did take a strong hour. Cause what we would do was break down we looked at interim assessments, and we break down the interims. We even do item analysis, where like, say the kids did well on a particular standard for one particular question in the standard. If one question threw a lot of kids, we break that down, and that takes time. And it takes content knowledge, so that's so those are some of the barriers that I would see. But I mean, in terms of solution, like there are other things, like data is an important part of the PLC, but then there are also other components. So maybe, I don't know, if we can't do the data part for certain ones, we can focus on other areas. But the idea is like continued learning, right? For
Right.
teachers
Right.
and for students.
Right?
So.
And to inform our instruction with what's happening in our classes. If you guys look in your binder, I provided a glossary and,
It's in the back.
it's
No,
towards
it's
the,
2 pages.
yeah, 2 pages of I think for you guys. So whenever you guys are feeling up for it, you might wanna kind of look through here, but I think even if we teach different subjects, we can still use, commonalities, like we can still come up with short assessments to give them, like I know Redfern, you quiz every Friday. So maybe that can be something that we just decide to embed in all of our classes. So that as the kids move from course to course, they're still experiencing some similarities. And so then, the vertical learning is another thing that we decided to implement as a department. I think, in terms of content specific, I agree with you. It's gonna be a little bit difficult to look at biology stuff and then look at physical science stuff and say, okay, well, what do we do here? And so the good part for us to learn about this process is that Neptune and I are actually gonna share a class. And so that we can really we can be the fishbowl, right? We can be the guinea pigs for that. But I think we should be able to look at all of our data, and we should be able to at the very least help you with remediation, and at the very least help you disaggregate what it is that you're seeing and come up with strategies to, retool, re-equip. At the very least, I think we should all be able to do that, even if it's not content specific. Plus those cognitive and metacognitive skills that we want kids to have, that could be all across our department. Do we want them to write? Do we want them to think critically? What it is that we want them to do by such point in time, by such course. And so I think, you know, we can all come to a consensus on that as well, you know? Next thing. Oh, and then the fours, I don't know, if you turn the page, the 4 critical questions are there. And then there's a bunch of bullets there for you guys as well. So our task for today is we're just gonna come up with a vision and a mission for our PLC for this semester. So, in terms of doing that, I pulled up the district mission and vision, and then I pulled up the school mission and vision. Here's the district vision. GCS is committed to helping students soar to greatness. Our students, staff, families, and community work together to graduate students who are ready to be successful citizens and leaders of the world. We can talk about that in a little while next time when we're not on video. And district mission, GCS students will graduate as responsible citizens prepared to succeed in higher education or in the career of their choice. You know, the superintendent has rolled out this Ignite Learning strategic plan. It has 6 big goals. I did bring in the magazine if you guys want to glance through it. In terms of their mission, I do see GCS working towards this mission. I think they implemented this mission in 2004. The school board voted for this mission statement. You know, we do see that they're trying to change a lot of the tracks, and they're trying to do these career and technical technology, you know, yeah. So, you know, I do see glimpses of this mission statement. I'm sure they're working on the vision as well. Then our school vision, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It did change, I think, the last year, the year before. We believe in, and that's capitalized, in creating an inclusive culture that builds authentic relationships involving all stakeholders. Do you guys feel like that's pretty accurate right now? I'm looking at Redford's face. Does it say anything about learning? Because the mission statement says our highest priority is to educate. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, I like this how it sounds.
You like how it sounds? Equitable
Educate,
environment, yeah.
quick,
Yeah, I don't know. So, we're gonna create our vision and our mission for our department. And so I gave you the definition here because it's important. The vision definition is the ability to think about our plan or plan for the future. So the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. That's where your creativity comes in. It's, you know, this one's is creative. And then the mission statement is what we do, how we do it, why we do it.
Okay, let's start with the mission.
So yeah, maybe we want to start with the mission and then come back to the vision. It doesn't have to be very wordy or very lengthy or anything like that.
I feel like our mission should be something about creating critical thinkers through writing,
Critical
something about
thinkers,
social.
writing.
Our mission is to graduate 21st century learners.
21st century learners.
And we'll do that by our way. This is hard.
I know why there's years on it.
It still does.
And so then maybe the 21st century learners, maybe what if we bring it to the vision? Because that's like a bigger, broader.
Yeah.
What about a moral standpoint? Like, I don't see that in any of the, like character traits.
Character, I love that.
Yeah. I feel like that'll go really well with the vision.
It's hard.
Yeah, character. Prepared. A lot of them are not.
There's really to think about.
Prepared Prepared for college, or prepared for work, or prepared for jail, or prepared?
For life after high school.
Right,
The real
prepared
world.
for adulthood, just.
Yeah.
I hate when she says, it's always so jargony. I don't want it to
Yeah.
sound fake. Like, when I just dropped the jargon bomb, like, that's what it hurts from you. But it's like, I just want it to sound real.
I tell you what,
This is our homework.
yeah,
That's something
why
to
don't
think
we, just one sentence, just one
Yeah.
sentence? And by the time that we see each other tomorrow, let's put our sentences together and see what we come up with. Sure.
I know, right? I'm be sitting at home like, what did she
Critical thinkers in writing, 21st century character building, prepared
We're
for
serious,
success.
we're serious. But seriously, that's hard to do. What do you want? Can we just have bullets, is what I can say.
Can you imagine other departments working through this?
Like, we want to hear,
Yeah, here.
write lessons.
Language,
That's our vision.
they can do it.
We want to teach when I do that. I'm joking. Right.
You good? You have your picture?
Yeah,
Thank you. That's a 21st century, learner technique, is using a phone to take notes. So, just looking ahead for next week's PLC, is Wednesday morning still work for everyone?
Yes.
I would like for you to bring in your scores. And I want you to think ahead, how will you use this data to inform your instruction next week? Right, next week we take off with brand new kids. How will you use that data to inform your instruction right away? And then what do you think should be the first task that our PLC tackles? Should we tackle standards? And the first question is, what do we expect our students to know? Should we tackle that? Or do you want to go in reverse? What do you think we should tackle? You don't have to decide right now. It could be something else, you know? Maybe we need to tackle something else first in order to hit the ground running. I do want to show you, remember when I said I made a chart and I'm very OCD? Oh, those are my references, by the way, that some of these I've put in your binder. And I'm gonna email this PowerPoint to you in case you're interested. But I do wanna show you, and y'all, please pray for me, because so I made this today. This is my second block class. And I want to know why the scores are where they are. And so what I've done is I've taken every piece of information that I can think of for this class as to assist me into why did I get those scores. And so one of the things you guys know for NC finals, we don't get the data that EOCs do. So for example, EVOS provides a probability of them passing the exam, and then they provide this projected percentile of the student in this North Carolina rank. But once they take the exam, they tell us how many they got correct, what's the percentage that they got correct on the exam. And then you know that LEA does a conversion, Guilford County Schools does this conversion and say, okay, well this is this grade, and so that's the grade that we give them. But it doesn't tell us if they grew or not, because North Carolina does not provide us information with a percentile. So, you know, for NC finals, those of all of us with NC finals, we have this issue, and it's an issue because I don't know if I grew the kid or not. I don't know if you know, if they were proficient or not. Yeah, you won't know until the following year, and so that DRIP syndrome, the data-rich information poor, it's real, and it's a problem. And so I don't wanna wait till next year, I wanna know right now, I wanna know now. So I started making this chart, and I almost regret it because, I have a huge headache. But these are all my second block students that tested. One of the students did not test. All of the blanks that you see are students that do not have any EVOS data. Obviously, all these yellows are passing scores on the NC final.
60 and above is passing, right?
Yeah, so I chose 60 and above, so D and above, to me a D is not passing, but it is what it is. A D is passing in our state, so I'll take it. And so what I started doing was, obviously omitting names, but here's their grade level, here's their GPA. I looked up the GPAs at the beginning of the year to get to know them. I looked up a lot of things about them. So I looked up their GPAs. Here's their gender, their race, the EVOS probability of passing, their percentile, projected percentile, which again, we don't know, this is an arbitrary figure. We don't know what this means. This is what they got correct on the exam. There were 45 questions, 5 of them were field test questions. This is their LEA grade. This is their quarter 1 grade. This is their quarter 2 grade. Obviously, I haven't calculated final grades yet. And then I said, okay, well, I want to know how do the absences affect them. So yeah, I have students 36 absences, 28 absences, 25 absences. And then, do they have an IEP, and are they LEP students or ESL students? I did have quite a bit of LEP students in that class. But most of the LEP students, they got Ds. And, if we look at, for example, this student right here, her probability was a 1%. Like, she's not gonna pass. Yet, she got a D. So, I don't know. This is kind of, I think, and this is time consuming, and I've only been able to do it for one class.
May I have your attention, please?
No. Have you guys ever thought of doing this?
Like track kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about it
This way.
and I started and was like, this is.
I track kids by standard, so like as they matriculate through, I can bring you to the next one, but it's there's 4 big sheets, and it has each standard. And so every Friday we quiz, and every time we quiz, it's like either a standard or 2 standards.
I'm gonna pull up something, that looks like what Redfern uses.
Because we talked about tracking kids in WCS Act,
So that's how
looking at standards.
That's how I remediate. So it's like, if the kid's proficient in the standard or not proficient. If they're not proficient, they have that lunch tutorial, or they have like reteach and enrich on Friday. So I track them that way. I really found like, I haven't really had a lot of correlation between the projection and then what they do for me.